okay, if I'm going to make a change over these next couple of years, how do I change it so that it could be something to sell? What does that mindset shift look like? Or how can we facilitate OTs to start thinking about that differently?
I love that question. This is the always starting with the end in mind. And I'm just going to go right to the end on who are your competitors, who might be buying in the space, because what you want to understand from the start is how do you create value to your buyer, whether it's the OT company, communities over in a different city. It's understanding where they place value. And if it allows to, as an owner, where you can take your business and you know you're taking a business that is going to have value in a couple of years, that's the smartest place to start, that you are creating that mind shift mid-career to change your business to be a commodity that can be sold at the end, that they already value in more than just your name.
You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlin Neek. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. My guest for this episode is a physiotherapist by training who went on to be a vice president at a national healthcare company. That's where I met him many years ago. And he's recently pivoted to share his knowledge and level the playing field, supporting smaller businesses in maximizing their potential. This conversation with Gary Thorne will get therapy business owners thinking about how they can create transferable value in their businesses, ultimately converting that business into something that can be sold instead of closed with retirement or sooner. This episode is for any therapy business owner, even if you're years away from closing. Before we jump into today's episode, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Jane, a clinic management software and EMR. Whether you're just starting to do your research or you've been contemplating switching your software for a while now, the Jane team understands that the process can feel intimidating. That's why their goal is to provide you with all the onboarding resources you need to make the switch as smooth as possible. Jane offers a personalized call to set up your account, a free date import, and a variety of online resources to get you up and running quickly. And if you need a helping hand along the way, you'll have access to unlimited phone, email, and chat support included with your Jane subscription. If you're interested in learning more, book a one-on-one demo at jane.app/switch. And if you decide to make the switch, don't forget to use the code VITALITY at sign up to receive a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Gary, thank you so much for being here. I really am happy that you reached out on LinkedIn and we connected because we actually used to work together many, many years ago.
Yes, it's wonderful. And thank you for having me on today, and look forward to the discussion that we're going to have about entrepreneurship in OT.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I have a national healthcare management firm. It's called Elevate Practice Intelligence, and it helps healthcare owners in 3 phases of startup, the organic growth in the middle part of their world, and then exit planning. And it is typically value growth advisory. So we do growth and succession planning and valuation of businesses, and everything from OT practices to physio to chiro to other wellness. And in a nutshell, that's Elevate Practice Intelligence.
And I love how you got here. Are you comfortable telling a little bit about why you have good experience doing this sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it just comes from a passion to help now. I had the corporate career, 15 years as a VP with a national healthcare company. I just have all of this domain knowledge and experience successes that I just feel like I'm on this path and need to share, in my opinion, just the right way of doing business. Mm-hmm. And it transcends many different platforms, and I have so much to give in terms of just knowledge. And I'm happy to share and collaborate with any owners that are looking to have that conversation.
And it's really neat too, because you're interested in supporting businesses that are quite small. It might be a solo clinician who owns a business. It might be more medium sized, might be bigger, but your experience is working with quite a big organization and being able to bring what you know about business in that bigger proportion to the smaller business owners. And as a person who's sort of a solo person in my business, I really appreciate that.
And I love the leveling of the playing field because it's always been the big players having this walk on the knowledge of how to run a business or how to scale a business or sell or acquire. And now you're able to take it from the large entities down to the sole proprietors or the owner that's got one clinic with 5 staff or multiple clinics, and it's transferable. And it's fun to get it down to the small guys, and I'm a champion of those individuals.
A lot of the OTs that I talk to and a lot of the OTs who are listening are likely a small business. We tend to very often have a private practice where it's just us and we go out and see our clients. We might not even have a space. OT is so community based that we might be going into homes or schools or doing consultations or ergonomics or something like that. And so very often we just think about closing our, like when I retire, I used to think, well, I guess I just close my practice because my practice is sort of nothing without me. I've always worked in a really customized way. I've always, assessed clients, determined what their needs were, gave them what they need, and that wasn't going to be the same for the next client. It was going to be different. And so if I were to want to not be in my OT practice anymore, essentially I'd just close it. I wouldn't have sold it. And I think I'm like a lot of OTs in private practice in that way. But a few years back, I started to think about wanting to make changes and shifts in my business. And I, wanted to do less trading dollars per hour and have something that was a little bit more scalable, something that I didn't have to be always the one providing a service one-on-one. That maybe it's a group, maybe it's a program, maybe it's something like that. And as I was starting to want to make that shift, I still have my OT practice, but as I was starting to want to build something, which turned out to be my Activate Vitality program, planner, and product, I wanted it to be something that would stand alone. So that wasn't Carl and Neat coaching. It was Activate Vitality. So if I'm going to build a tangible product, I could sell it. I don't want to sell it at this point, but why not? If I'm going to make a change, why not change it in a way that it could be sold one day instead of me just closing when I retire?
I think it's brilliant because you hit on all of the things that when you think about the middle phase of a career business owner, they're in that high-paced burnout type of mode. And it's like, how do I think about my business differently and have thought and planning around how do I get to an exit where my business is sellable? How do I transfer value to a new owner that's my brand is more than just me as an owner. So I love what you've done with the vitality part of your business versus your coaching part. And because there is a transferability now that's not reliant on the owner and the relationships that the owner has with referral sources, that you are more than just a list of referral sources that send your business work. And that's the power of thinking differently so that you are removing yourself from a business, which overall helps.
Yes.
When you think about the type of process way before you consider selling your practice.
I think a lot of OT businesses are busier than they want to be, or they get to a point where they're busier than they want to be. They've been at this for a long time. Maybe they're kind of like, okay, like I've been saying yes to all the referrals. I'm exhausted. That's where I was at. I was really struggling to say no. So I was just taking on more and more. And I still was turning away a lot of work. And so at one point I hired a bunch of contractors, but that just kind of landed me with doing more administrative work. And that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And so either I got boundaried or I hired people or I expanded. Those seemed to be my only options before I decided to build the Activate Vitality program. But I think a lot of OTs are in that spot where it's a busy business and maybe I don't want to work like that anymore. Maybe I'm kind of tired. Maybe I want to do something a little bit different. Do I close this one? Do I change it, shape it into something that feels more aligned? But either way, that OT might start thinking about, okay, if I'm going to make a change over these next couple of years, how do I change it so that it could be something to sell? And that's kind of what we're going to expand a little bit more into. So even just for that mindset shift from being a solo sort of therapist clinician where they own all the asset of their business between their ears, what does that mindset shift look like? Or how can we facilitate OTs to start thinking about that differently?
I love that question. This is the always starting with the end in mind. And I'm just going to go right to the end on who are your competitors, who might be buying in the space, because what you want to understand from the start is how do you create value through your buyer, whether it's the OT company, communities over in a different city. It's understanding where they place value. And if it allows to, as an owner, where you can take your business and you know you're taking a business that is going to have value in a couple of years, that's the smartest place to start, that you are creating that mind shift mid-career to change your business to be a commodity that can be sold at the end, that they value in more than just your name. Mm-hmm. And I think that place of understanding where to look first and then working backwards to, okay, this is what my OT world is buying. This is what the national healthcare companies are looking for, even a private equity firm is looking for. And understanding my competitor is potentially my buyer, and starting those conversations early to understand the roadmap back to your current stage. I hope that helped a little bit in that mindset shift. And then it's just understanding and putting a pitch deck together. Where's my value? There's brands, there's the team, there's the product and service that goes with it. That entrepreneur brain, quick saying, versus your clinical brain that absorbs all of your time in a day.
What are some things that a buyer might be looking at? Thinking about when I was making that shift, I chose to create a product and a program. That might be, if I can prove this program, I can create this approach and package that up. Perhaps somebody might want to buy that program and the branding and everything that comes with that. But what are some other things that buyers of an OT business might be looking at as an asset that we might be able to even start to work toward if we're not already there?
Yeah, and there's two main ones. It's a product or a service. So you've got a product and it's owned by you and it's your copyright. That is powerful if they can scale it.
Okay.
See, a B2B customer like a national disability or an auto or a legal customer, whatever the case is, but it's the product and service and it has to be scalable. So can you take it from a city to a province to Western Canada to Canada in the virtual world of how we exist today? Others taking something local and scaling it. That's probably the best way. Yeah. There is many different ways where buyers are looking for tuck-ins and they want an OT practice to be doing community work, whether it's in brain injury or other services that they've got contracts for. Does it allow a buyer to have a new vertical called occupational therapy versus a product, like a program that you can implement in a group setting type of things? Those are the main ones.
And so what about the OT who has maybe a small clinic? Maybe they've got employees, they've got a whole sort of way of going about things. They have a number of assets. What are those assets that a buyer might be interested in if it was more than a solopreneur?
Yeah, typically, so it depends if they've got bricks and mortar. So there's a destination for them to land at. So the location is important. If it is a formal, like got a clinic and this is where patients show up at, there's proprietary information, there's contracts that the owner has. So it's that customer list. And it's that transferability of that customer list to the new owner that's going to be important. There's a lot of value in that. So we talk about cash. So what's cash in the business and the operating capital that's there? Yeah. And then talk about simple things of intangible asset. Goodwill is typically location and proprietary information. So there are things that are outside of, if my occupational therapy practice generates 500,000 in sales, how much of the bottom line do you keep? Do you keep 200,000 and you've got a 40% EBITDA, and you know that is a big component of why businesses get bought. And what I'm seeing in the marketplace now with other healthcare practices, they're under 5%. And no practice can be sold to a buyer with 5% EBITDA. It's just nobody would buy it. And I won't say with 100% certainty, but also saying with really high certainty that it's just not sellable. So if you have clinicians, you have to find a way to keep cash at the end of the year, because that's what a multiple is put to. If you have 200,000 a year, you might have a multiple of 4 or a multiple of 5, and then you're earning 800,000 or $1 million on the sale of practice.
Right. Because a lot of us who are small, like solo practices, we're looking to minimize our sort of revenue at the end of the year for tax purposes, right? Like you want to be sure that you include every expense that you reasonably can and ethically can. You want to sort of do that to reduce taxes paid, but you need to think about it differently. If in a few years you're going to sell, you need to see how that looks like on paper when you're giving your financials and that sort of thing.
That's powerful beyond belief, because that is the mindset shift between putting no tax and creating cash in your business for the sale. And I look at businesses and I go back 2 years, there's still no cash in the business because they've written it all off. They've done food splitting, or they would have so many ad backs to try to normalize it. And it's painful to go back years to show that your business has value. So this is the good starting point that 2 or 3 years out from the sale of big practice, or when you'd like to exit, it's getting that accounting to show that you've got cash positive. It's really taking that business from paying no tax to paying tax. And it's really a small amount, but having cash in your business so that you've got something tangible, cash to sell, is really strong in terms of that message to the potential buyer. Yeah.
So this all might sound really overwhelming to someone who wasn't even thinking about this, that they were thinking, okay, well, I'm getting a little tired in my business. Maybe I want to kind of make some changes. Maybe I want to retire in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And then this might be a little bit mind blowing. Where can people go for support?
Well, I think they're talking to 2 people right now. One is the coach of OTs, and the mindset shift of becoming, I need to change something, and I'd like to start thinking about my business differently. Like, how do I create space in my schedule for that to happen? So how do you coach from your side, Caroline, to even bring it over to that potential of, oh my gosh, I do have something here. And then it might get passed over to me to have a conversation. I've got 3 consultations. I mean, I usually do 3 consultations, 1, 2, 3, 4 times with an owner before we make a service arrangement for consulting. And it's just really getting to know where your resources are from the human side and then the business side. And I think we could potentially delineate it that way, but I think you're the impetus or the catalyst that brings awareness to an owner before I would typically see them, because I don't know if they have that thought process and I have something that's marketable or sellable at the end.
Yeah.
And I think it's a 1-2 combination. And I would probably have you as a referral source when you're working with owners that go, yeah, I want some of that. And I do want to be paid for my hard work.
Yeah. And it could go, people listening might be already ready and just didn't know where to turn or didn't know how to learn. It's hard to Google, well, what's my business worth? Or how do I sell an OT practice? Google isn't all that helpful with this, to be honest. And so being able to have a free consultation with someone like you, that's helpful. And I do appreciate the shout out, because definitely a lot of the clients that I coach, the OTs that I coach, they're on the verge of burnout or going in and out of burnout, and just the business is busy and they don't know how to change it. They don't know what they want, but they know something's got to change. And so I do some coaching and going, okay, well, you have a business. That's great. What do you want life to look like? What do you want life to feel like? How much do you want to be working? Okay, well, what business changes do you need to make to get there? But there's that little piece of, if you're going to make some change, why not make it something that could sell? So getting them to kind of that, I guess it's that pre-contemplation into preparation, and you're supporting with that contemplation, preparation, action. But I love that you do these free consultations.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I just have so much to give back to the community. Like I learned a lot, and I just want to level the playing field for owners to take on that next journey and to have an exit that's rewarding and a business that can be transferable and stand on its own in the next chapter of the life of the practice. It doesn't have to close. It can live on if you want to prepare.
So if somebody was like, I don't even know where to go, but I need to learn more, they can find you on LinkedIn, Gary Thorne, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I found a blog article too, Sell My Practice, How to Create an Exit Plan to Extract Maximum Value. I'll put a link to that one. But on your webpage, you also have book a free consultation. So does a person need to be ready to book a free consultation? Do they need to be ready to act?
No, like these are then just contemplating it. What could it look like? And
Yeah.
I might be 10 years out and I'm not ready yet, but it's the preparation of just knowing and starting conversations with competitors or national companies or who's buying and looking at the world outside of your business differently, that they're not competitors, they're future potential buyers. And how do I have to act as an owner to prepare with my accounting, with my legal team? There's just many different steps. So it's just a good starting point to have a conversation. And we might have 3 or 4. I'm happy to do that.
So your website is elevatemypractice.ca.
Correct.
Okay. And they can find you on LinkedIn, but there's a nice green book a free consultation button at the top of the website. Yeah, you're really generous about offering a lot of free stuff, and you're always posting on LinkedIn and doing some YouTube videos and things like that. So I appreciate all you're doing to give good value to people who are just trying to figure out where they're going.
Right. It's a great starting point. And like I said, there's no commitment needed at the start. This is just easy conversations. Yeah, happy to do it.
Wonderful. I have some questions I usually ask the OTs at the end of my podcast. I didn't prepare you with these questions, but let's give them a go. So this is the Brave OT podcast, as you know. So what does being brave mean to you?
Wow. Yeah. Being brave is doing something every day that scares you. Like it is out of your comfort zone. It is starting a conversation with a national accounting firm that is the Goliath and you're the smaller fish. And it's a very different mindset from the world that I come from, where the large corporate company has power and influence, and to be brave to step into conversations and to reach out to a whole new group of influencers that are going to teach and grow with you. It is scary. It's a big world, and it was like to be really vulnerable and to say that out loud. It is a hard transition to come out of a world where you've had a salary for so many years and you're now on your own. And that's the brave part of it, is just doing something every day that scares you, but you walk forward into it. Yeah.
I love it. And what's something brave you've done recently?
Well, studying this practice is a really brave piece. I'm only 4 months live, and it's taking everything that I learned over my 15 years as a VP in a national healthcare company to bring it into a knowledge exchange to, how do you get that across social media platforms? How do I meet influencers like yourself and other physios that I'm talking to on podcasts?
Yeah.
And I think that's the bravest thing I've done in quite some time, to go solo. Yeah. And it's like I've got a lot of self-assurance and I know this will work, but it's still a scary journey because of the roller coaster ride.
Because you're used to being a big wig in a big fish company, right? And it's a very vulnerable thing to be just me.
Yeah.
Out there building relationships.
Yeah. You eat a lot of humble pie.
Yeah.
And I never really tasted over the last 15 years. But it's powerful at the same time. It's just where I need to be. It's the right spot at the right time for me. So I like that.
It's going to really be fulfilling for you. Like I can hear a lot of heart and values coming out in your why for this.
Yeah, my why is rooted in the health Like, it's not that full altruistic, I'm giving my practice away, but I have so much to give, offer owners, practitioners, whether you're starting or exiting. I've got the full gamut that I can run, and the impact that I think this company will have is going to be transformative across the countries.
How would you like OTs to be a little bit more brave in the coming years?
Yeah, I think just what we talked about today, the brave part is just that shift. Again, I'm a great clinician, but I also have a business.
Yeah.
And to step into a world of business to realize the potential that you have, whether you're sole practice, there's value. And I think the brave part is the journey to explore what's outside of your comfort zone too, and talking to competitors to see who's buying and exploring how can I set up my business for transfer of ownership down the road. Very different than just running the course and closing. There's more options, and I think it's the brave part is just exploring it. There's more than just that one choice, that separate choice. It's that I'm just going to close. So terrible, yeah, but I think it's true. Like, you got to find more choices. Just don't think there's one. Yeah.
Yeah. And finding that path of how, I mean, many people love what they do so much that they don't really see retire. Like, I kind of see myself as continuing to do this work in some capacity, not like working my butt off until an early retirement. It's
Right.
The work I do is really fulfilling. And so that sense of I'd love to keep doing this, but it needs to continue to be fulfilling. And that sometimes, requires some adjusting and figuring it out and valuing yourself and going, okay, I'm more than a workhorse. Like, I'm more than just a service provider. I have a lot of expertise to transfer. I have built a lot of things that I don't even realize are valuable to a buyer. And starting to really see that value is really big.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is like changing. Yeah, to me, that is a transition that I would step in 100% of the time to explore. Right?
Yeah.
Just not give up on without exploring that potential for what'll it have and what's it worth and who would buy it. Journey's a fun one because it's just exploration in a different hat. It's not a clinical lens. It's your business now and talk to business people and
being curious, talking to people, getting out there.
love it.
So if you haven't already, people listening, connect with Gary on LinkedIn. Check out his website, elevatemypractice.ca, and maybe even book a consultation call with him. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Colin. Wonderful to have had time with you today and your audience. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. I hope you found this episode of the Brave OT podcast to be inspiring and maybe get you thinking a little bit differently about your legacy and what you will do with your business when you're no longer in it. Maybe you'll see your business a little bit differently or shape it a little bit differently, knowing that there's some potential to exit in a way that might look like selling it instead of just closing the doors. I invite you to check out Gary's blog post. I'll put a link in the show notes. And Gary really means it when he says that he would love to book a free consultation with you. He's helped me out just talking things out, considering the options. How do I approach this business situation? I'm not sure what to do with that. He's really good at that. So that link will be in the show notes as well. And you can find him on LinkedIn. I always love hearing from therapy business owners about how the podcast is impacting them. So if you liked this episode, I would love it if you would share it with others, tag me, send me a message, let me know what you think. And I'd also love to hear if you have any questions that you would like for me to address in upcoming episodes. I've had quite a backlog of recorded interviews that I am catching up with, and I'll soon be doing some more solo episodes. So I invite any questions that I might be able to answer. Thanks for listening, and as always, be brave, OTs.